What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today is maybe the first time ever on my channel where I'm making a video that I absolutely wish I was not making. I cannot tell you how disappointing it is for me to have to bring you any of this information. I'm sure most of you have already seen it. I've been mentioning it in some of my previous videos, and what I'm going to be talking about today is just how devastated really I was to watch the interview that Doucette did with Cutler. Just to real briefly preface my reasons for disappointment, when I was coming up in my early 20s, Jay was basically an idol of mine. Like when I got into bodybuilding, Jay was the guy that I followed the most. Basically it was Jay Cutler and Marcus Rule. Those two guys were the guys that I wanted to win every show. I used to read Muscular Development back in the day when it was like that fucking thick, and it was, you know, when pro hormones were raging, and you know, they had the pinups and all that shit in the magazines, and I really loved Jay and Marcus a lot. And like I said, Jay was kind of an idol of mine. Like if I could pick any physique in the world, his would probably have been it back in the day. And so I followed his career ever since then, and I still really enjoy watching the stuff that he puts out. That being said, the video he did, the interview he did, I mean, it broke my heart. And so today I'm going to go into the reasons why I was so disappointed with the content that was produced or with the answers that he gave, because I think that his answers to the questions that Greg asked really are representative of everything that is wrong with bodybuilding today. So to get started, I've got some notes here. Usually I just try to fly off the cuff, but I wanted to be able to give you line by line what he said. I don't have premium to like download the video, so really I would just rather you guys, if you haven't seen it, I'll try to link it below, but it's on Greg Doucette's channel. Go check out the interview he did with Jay, and then you can see, you know, you can come back if you want and see my takedown of it. So right out the gate, Jay commits what I think is the cardinal sin when anyone is talking about anabolics. When, excuse me, that's something in my eye. When Greg asked Jay basically kind of like, where are you at today? You know, he's on TRT or HRT, and Jay kind of alludes to the fact that he thinks that a lot of people's HRT doses are bullshit. And then he says that he's using half a cc to 1 cc per week for HRT reasons. Guys, I cannot tell you enough how stupid of an answer this is. And again, please understand, Jay was my idol. He still in a lot of ways is my idol. I love the guy. I don't want to badmouth him. But at the end of the day, it's just the shit that he said in that interview I felt was incredibly misleading and does more harm than good. You should never, ever, ever talk about anabolics and answer something like when somebody says, how much DECA do you take? The answer is not 1 cc. The answer is the number of milligrams per week that you take. When Jay says he takes 0.5 to 1 cc a week, there's so many things wrong with that answer. First of all, 0.5 of what? Test 200? Test 250? Test 300, test 500. He admits later in the show that his testosterone, in the interview, that his testosterone is compounded. So what formulation is it? In what strength is it being compounded? If you're taking half of a cc of test 200, obviously you have 100 milligrams per week. If you're taking 1 cc, you've got 200 milligrams a week. But if you're taking half a cc of test 500, then you've got 250 milligrams a week versus 500 milligrams a week, which is a fucking huge difference. He's talking about the fact that he feels like guys are blowing their hormone levels out of proportion, that they're not maintaining healthy testosterone levels, and then he gives us this answer of 0.5 to 1 cc, and that doesn't tell us fuck all about what he's actually taking. Furthermore, why is his dose variable? What do you mean half a cc to 1 cc. The whole point of hormone replacement therapy is to dial you into a steady state so that you don't have all of these fluctuations in the serum concentrations of your testosterone levels. One of the number one reasons that you don't want fluctuations in serum concentration is because those fluctuations lead to the hormone either being 5-alpha reduced into DHT or aromatized into estrogen. So if you take a cc this week and half a cc next week and then your shit's all over the place, why would you ever want your hormone levels to fluctuate like that? Then he tries to tell us that he's maintaining somewhere in the 600 nanogram per deciliter range at over 230 pounds. So what I was extracting from this interview at this point basically was that I need to quit bodybuilding. I need to fucking shut my channel down. I need to never talk about this again, because if a guy that was as big as Jay Cutler can maintain his physique at 600 nanograms per deciliter, then I don't know what the fuck I am doing over here. He says that he would like to crank it up to 800, and that he feels like the guys that are over 1,000 are taking too much. I don't understand this answer at all. I cannot ever imagine having a 600 nanogram per deciliter test level ever again. I don't know why you would want it that low. I don't understand the idea that 1,100 or 1,300 or whatever is too high for a number of reasons. If you have a 1,300 nanogram per deciliter testosterone level at the peak of your injection, so if you're injecting once a week and then you take your test 2 days after your injection and you're at 1,300, by the time at the end of the week in your trough, you're going to be down there a ways. You could be as far as halfway down from 1,300, which is why I pin my doses twice a week, because I don't want this big spike in this fucking trough. Again, that's what causes the body to well, it's not the cause. The body's going to aromatize regardless. But when you have spikes in your level, you're going to increase aromatase expression in the body, and that is absolutely something you do not want. So in a perfect world, we'd probably all be injecting test prop every single day so that we can maintain as steady of a curve or no curve. If we could get a flat line, that would be ideal. But to suggest that you would pin one shot a week and maybe do a cc and maybe do half a cc and then not even fucking disclose what the milligram per milliliter of the bottle is fucking nuts to me. And again, it does more harm than good. You should never tell a guy that it's okay to fuck with your dose. You don't want to fuck with your dose. You want to take your shots the same time every day of the week, every week without fail. At one point in the show, or in the interview, again, I keep saying show, at one point in the interview, he says that he went on vacation or he went out of town and he didn't take a shot. So he just skipped it. Now, he admits that's not ideal. No, it's far from ideal. That is the last thing you ever want to do. You do not want to miss shots, and you don't want to change your fucking dose up. You want to find the dose that puts you in the sweet spot that you and your doctor are looking for, and then stay there and don't fuck with it. So in my estimation, Jay's explanation of his HRT protocol was damaging at best and just total bullshit at worst. I really hope that that is not the way he's running this. And as these words are coming out of my mouth, I'm saying to myself, who the fuck am I to say anything to a, what was he, 4-time Mr. Olympia? Like, I just don't believe he's being honest. I think he's lying throughout this entire fucking interview, and I don't understand why you even take the interview. If you can't answer the questions honestly, then just don't answer them at all, because you end up looking worse. And the second point on my list is where I think he really shows his ass the most. So, one more thing on his HRT. He tells Greg that he's prescribed Arimidex to control his estrogen, but that he just forgets to take it. Again, man, this is not something to fuck with. Estrogen causes massive problems to your libido, to all kinds of biological functions in the body. You do not want to have your test or your estrogen levels going up and down. It's the worst possible scenario, so please, guys, do not fucking forget to take your Arimidex if you are prescribed it. Find out how much is necessary to keep your E2 in the normal range and don't fuck with it at all. Then Greg asks him to talk about his blasts while he was competing. What Greg was originally trying to get out of Jay, which we never really got a clean answer to, was what are you taking now? And then what's an example of like when you were going balls to the wall, competition prep, off-season bulking, what was the max you ever took? Jay never gives us a fucking solid answer. He just jumps all over the fucking place and just name drops random fucking roids like that's supposed to mean something to us. The most specific he gets in the entire fucking interview is he tells Greg that his off-season cycle was 500 milligrams of test and 600 milligrams of EQ. That's all he needed to bulk on. All Jay needed to get to fucking 300 pounds in the off-season was 1,100 milligrams of gear and not even some of the most potent compounds that are out there. Again, this is why I say if this shit is true, I need to fucking turn the camera off, cancel my fucking gym membership, and never go back to a gym again because I cannot build anywhere near the kind of muscle this guy apparently built on this level of gear. So if this again is the case, this guy legitimately has the most insane fucking genetics known to man. But if he does, that begs the question, doesn't it? If you're trying to beat Ronnie Coleman, okay, if you want to unseat the fucking king, and you're taking 500 milligrams of test and 600 milligrams of EQ in the offseason, and you've got world-class genetics, clearly, because you're a fucking monster on next to no gear, don't you think you would fucking up the ante a little bit to see if maybe you couldn't have another Olympia under your fucking belt? You know, you couldn't have won it earlier? That's the thing that always fucks with me when these guys go, yeah, you know, I didn't really need to take that much shit. Okay, you didn't need to take that much shit, but you're not the most winningest Olympian ever. So why not take more shit and win more shows? I don't think anybody goes into a show going, fuck it, I don't even really care if I win. You know, I'm just going to go up there and have a good fucking time and walk around in my little bikini bottoms and everybody's going to fucking love it. No, you fucking train your ass off and you diet your ass off literally because you want to win. So you're going to do all of the things it takes except throw in a little fucking trend maybe? I don't know. So he does talk about other compounds a little bit later when he says that he would throw in some exotics. And what Jay calls exotics are Anavar, Winstrol, and Parabolid. It's funny when in the interview he says to Greg like, and you know, I used to take Parabolid. You probably don't even know what that is. Like that's some kind of big fucking mystery drug. Like nobody knows what Parabolid was. What I find to be really interesting is throughout this entire interview, he seems to kind of stumble around and not really be able to remember. He throws out this drug, he throws out that drug. He says, I didn't take a lot. You know, sometimes I would use a little D-ball, the anadrols in the beginning, you know, 3 anadrols a day. So it's like, it's almost like he's got like fucking Alzheimer's or something. And sometimes his memory's real sharp and then other times he's kind of in the clouds. He's not real positive. So he's kind of seems to be guessing at what he took, but then he hits us with, you know, the Parabolid amps were 76 milligrams apiece. So it's like, he knows exactly how much trend was in the Parabolid amps that were made, what, like fucking 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever the fuck it was. But he can't really remember exactly what cycle he took when he won his first Olympia. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, obviously, again, who the fuck am I to question anything this man says? But it's very, very hard to believe. So 500 milligrams of test, 600 milligrams of EQ, that's Jay's off-season blast. Which, okay, let's say he's got the world-class genetics and ignoring all of the other points I make, that's what he's going to grow on. Here's the next gigantic problem we have with what he says. He says that he ran 5 mgs, 500 mgs of test, 600 mgs of EQ for 10 weeks only. He blasted EQ for 10 weeks, then got off for 10 weeks. Now, I want to come right out the gate and be totally transparent. I have never used EQ. The reason I've never used EQ is because from what I've read, it's not a terribly potent muscle builder, and it's a very, very long-acting compound. Everything I've read says you really need to run EQ for like 20 weeks minimum to really get any effects out of it. I have never in my lifetime ever read of someone recommending to run a steroid cycle, really of any compounds, for only 10 weeks. I mean, let's think about this. Any long-acting ester is going to take 4 weeks to really kind of ramp up in your system. You're not actually going to get to stable serum concentrations until 4 to 6 weeks. So you've got 4 weeks of building up minimum, and then you're going to have the intended dose in your system for 6 weeks and then jump off. Again, maybe the genetics allowed him to do that. But I don't know anyone personally who could successfully build muscle in 10-week fucking cycles of the compounds he's referencing. So again, he does mention that he used the parabolin, anavar, different compounds, D-ball, anadrol, primo. He mentions using primo. So again, he kind of cherry picks all of these compounds and orals and shit, but he never just comes out and goes, look, man, during contest prep, this is what I took, and during off-season, this is what I took. And again, the only reason I can imagine that he would say this shit or he would not be specific is because these guys are terrified that someone's going to go out and copy their cycle, which it seems to me like if you were going to copy any cycle in the world, wouldn't it be Jay Cutler? Like, wouldn't it be an IFBB pro fucking multi-time Mr. Olympia? If you were going to try to do a thing, isn't that what you would fucking want to reference rather than some random dude you met in the fucking gym who's probably never even been on stage or is never going to be on stage? Like, in my estimation, as I've said a million times in my videos, I think that the key to harm reduction is more information, not less. I think the more honest people are about what they ran and what the real side effects were, the better chance you have of actually preventing people from doing harm to themselves. Why not tell us, man, I ran gigantic amounts of gear, my blood work was all fucked up, I had kidney problems, liver problems, fucking blood pressure problems. I couldn't fucking sleep at night. These are things that Greg has admitted to. That's one of the things I do. A lot of guys shit on Greg Doucette. One of the things I love about him is he had no problem coming right out the gate and say, man, I took 700 milligrams of fucking Tren a week and I couldn't sleep and it was fucking miserable. I did gigantic amounts of fucking gear to turn pro and to try to win shows, and I would not recommend anyone do that. To me, that is a much more straightforward, honest approach that is more likely to lead to harm reduction than these bullshit cycles that these guys talk about. I just don't fucking believe that they're real. One of the only things I feel like that Greg honestly seemed to be agreeing with Jay on, Greg looks very suspicious throughout the entire interview. In fact, at one point he says, I don't think anybody's going to believe that you only took 500 milligrams of test and 600 milligrams of EQ to bulk. I just don't. He goes, I believe it, but I don't think anybody else is going to believe it. And what else is he going to say? They both seem to agree that growth hormone was the most overrated compound any of them have ever used. When I started this video, I had half of a fucking battery, and I've been shooting pictures all day, and I thought, you know what? I need to go change my battery because it's going to die in the middle of this fucking video. And here it comes, getting ready to die. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. See, there's even more reason for none of you guys to listen to a goddamn thing I say. I'm not even smart enough to keep a full battery in my camera while I'm shooting videos. Nevertheless, the one thing that Greg and Jay both seemed to agree on was that growth hormone was the most overrated thing that guys are using then or now. That's the biggest reason I've never used growth hormone. I keep hearing conflicting stories. Some guys will basically tell you that growth hormone is just like a staple. It's just like fucking GH, insulin. You just take it. That's just part of the fucking game. Other guys will tell you man, you know, like, it's not really a potent muscle builder. Yeah, it'll help you fucking cut, but it's not going to put a bunch of meat on your frame. So, you know, do what you do. So again, they both felt like it was massively overrated. I would love to hear in the comment section, since I'm having a hard time trusting anything these guys say, what is you guys' opinion of GH? Do you feel like it helps you to build any kind of substantial muscle tissue? Do you only use it for cutting? How many IUs a day do you use? What has been your experience with it? I would love to see that shit in the comment section or message me on Instagram, because according to Jay, who felt like growth hormone was overrated, he was using up to 9 to 12 IUs a week during prep, which I think is a fucking large amount. I don't know. I read on the forums all the time about guys starting at 2 IUs, jumping to 4 IUs, and their fucking hands go completely numb, and they got all kinds of carpal tunnel and tingling and can't sleep at night, and it takes a fucking month or more for their shit to return to normal, which is another reason I'm terrified to even take the shit. People talk about trend like that causes problems. What? Your hands go numb for a month on end from GH? This sounds fucking horrific for something that supposedly doesn't even build muscle. But anyway, I digress. Nobody gives a shit about this. I'm trying to talk to you about Jay Cutler here and these fucking answers that he gave. What else did he say? He said that when he was doing shows, that he would come completely off gear. He was very adamant about this, that you should, like he said, 500 milligrams test, 600 milligrams EQ, blast for 10 weeks, then come off all gear for 10 weeks. Consider me skeptical, guys. I have a hard time believing that. A Mr. Olympia blasted for 10 weeks and then didn't even stay on a hormone replacement therapy amount. He PCT'd for 10 weeks and then went back on blast? Am I the only one that thinks that this shit doesn't make any sense at all? Like, again, I don't PCT because I have TRT. Why would I? So when I blast, I jump off and I fall back to at least my TRT dose, except in this case, I threw some tren in the mix, and I've made a series of videos that you should definitely check out if you're coming to my channel for the first time. I have a hard time believing that a guy that's prepping for a Mr. Olympia show is going to take the chance of losing any of his gains from the off season by going completely off cycle for 10 weeks. But again, who am I? What the fuck do I know? So, really, this is the way Jay treats this throughout the entire interview. He jumps back and forth. He labels a bunch of different drugs. Says, I dabbled in this, I dabbled in that, I took that in the beginning, I didn't really like the GH, I came off completely. One of the other interesting things he talks about is in contest prep that he would use his prep would be from like the 16 to 12 week mark, and that he would use long-acting esters in the beginning, and then around the 10 to 12 week mark, he would start pulling out the long-acting esters and replacing them with short-acting esters. And then like 2 weeks before the show, he would pull all the oils out and go with orals only. Again, I don't compete, so this is not the protocol that I'm used to reading about or hearing about. I would love to see your comments in the section below again as to what you make of Jay's. Because, I mean, this is as good as he gets, right? He doesn't ever give us actual compounds or actual cycles. He just throws out, yeah, I use some tren here, and yeah, you know, I would add the Anavar there, or the Anadrol there, or the fucking insulin there. I think he said that he came off everything. He was on absolutely nothing show day. Again, is this common? I've not heard this. Would love to know more. So, throughout the entire interview, Jay talks about, he keeps driving home the point that he really didn't use that much gear. And then there's this awkward moment right at the very beginning where he says that his off period was actually 12 weeks, not 10. And then he goes, but come on, with all the shit that I was taking, you know that 12 weeks wasn't long enough to get all those drugs out of my system. So there was really still drugs in my system even during my off period. which totally contradicts everything he said for the entire beginning of the interview. You weren't taking that much shit, and your off period was 10 weeks, and then flash forward to the end, and now your off period's 12 weeks, but you never really came off because you took so much shit that it was still in your system 12 weeks later. Again, here's an example of where maybe my steroid pharmacology information is not at the top of the food chain. What the fuck compound would you be taking that if you stopped using it cold turkey on, whatever day, that 12 weeks later it would still be active in your system? EQ? Maybe? I don't know. Deca? I don't know. Like, that's a long-acting ester for it to still be in your system doing things 12 weeks later. So I think it's pretty clear to the majority of us that this is another example of a big name, one of the biggest names in the entire industry, really doing all of us a disservice by not just coming clean. I can't for the life of me understand what he has to lose at this point, at this stage in his career, which, his career is effectively over. I know he's got a lot of businesses and, whatever he's doing, but I really wish we could get more big names to step to the forefront and go, look, guys, this is exactly what our cycles look like. Don't do it. It's not going to work for you. Whatever disclaimer you want to use it. Because they're right. There's no doubt about it that genetics play a massive role in this game. If genetics wasn't one of the biggest factors out there, we would all be Mr. Olympia. Every one of us who's sitting here blasting our brains out with compounds and meal prepping and going to the gym for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and not drinking with our buddies. And there's so many people in this world that treat bodybuilding as a lifestyle. If genetics didn't play a role, we would all be out there just fucking gigantic. So I know for a fact that the genetics matter. I just don't think they matter so much that a guy can get away with the stuff that he's saying here. I think it's very clear, again, that we're not getting an honest breakdown of the pharmacology that was deployed to win these shows. And to be honest with you, when guys talk like this, when they refuse to give up the truth about what they were taking, that makes a guy like me think, man, the drugs really matter. Like, apparently the drugs are a huge part of the game because these guys all want to keep it top secret. Nobody wants to give up the fucking goods as to exactly what they took to turn pro, to win that Olympia, to win the fucking Arnold Classic, whatever. So there you have it. What did you guys think about that interview? Were you guys fans of Jay? Is there some data out there I can get a hold of, from any big names that are being honest about the stuff they say? What do you think is the reason why we continue to get these bullshit interviews where guys that I think a lot of us idolized growing up really kind of spit in our faces? That's kind of what it feels like. It's like, there's tons of people around the world that are involved in this industry to whatever degree, and we're all trying to build the best physiques we can build. And then guys come around and are like, it's just genetic. I didn't really have to take anything. I'm just God built me this way. I'm just a monster. And it really, I feel like, kind of short dicks the rest of us. It would be a lot better to know that our efforts were being spent in an endeavor that was reasonable because, this is definitively what it took to succeed. There you have it. That's my rant. Obviously at the end of the day, it doesn't change my adoration for Jay. I still think he had one of the best physiques that the world's ever seen. Seems like just a genuinely, unbelievably cool guy. I would love to meet him in person one day. But I just wish I wish it was Jay would be the guy who would step up and go, okay, this is the truth. This is what we really took. There you have it. Hopefully this has been entertaining at the very least, and we'll see you on the next one.